Greetings fellow tank commanders. In this video I'm going to be showing you a game that I played in the Dragon Type 62, and also giving my first impression of the tank. This is a Tier 7 Chinese premium light tank which plays up to Tier 10. The game I'm playing is a standard battle on Ensk War with Tier 9 as the top tier and 1 artillery on each team. For this game, my tank is equipped with coated optics, binoculars, and improved ventilation. I'm not sold on this equipment combo and I'm probably going to change it up. I'm using my most experienced Chinese crew, which has 9 crew skills and perks. I have my Type 62 supplied with improved combat rations and quality oil, which increases the tank's horsepower by 5%. I've started off the game here on the open side of the map, just trying to get some spots for my snipers. Now the Type 62 doesn't have as good of mobility as other Tier 7 light tanks. It's got a top speed of 60 kilometers per hour, which is about 10 less than most of the other Tier 7 light tanks. It's got a horsepower to ton ratio of 20.48, which once again doesn't put it at the top of its class, but at least its track traverse and turret traverse speed are good enough to match this mobility. Even though it may seem a little sluggish compared to other light tanks, it is still quite a mobile vehicle. For the first couple games that I played with the Type 62, I didn't run quality oil, but once I started using it, I found it made a big difference to the tank's mobility, and I really didn't notice any of its shortcomings after that. And if the top speed bothers you a little bit, you can supply it with a remove speed governor for that extra boost when you're doing an important flanking maneuver. Since I'm in this open area spotting enemies out, it's a good time to bring up that the Type 62 has a 390 meter view range. Unfortunately, this doesn't put it at the top of its class either, because quite a few Tier 7 light tanks have 400 meter view range. You'll notice that the Type 62 doesn't have overly impressive gun depression, it's only 5 degrees, and so it doesn't really excel at ridgeline fighting. I haven't been very successful in this position of the map, and with my light tank teammate sharing the spot with me, there's really no point for me to stick around. So I'm going to reposition to another area of the map and see if I can infiltrate behind the enemies. Now we're going to see the Type 62's gun in some real action soon. It's got a nice combination of alpha damage and damage per minute, both of which are above most Tier 7 light tanks. And combined with this, it's got okay accuracy, aim time, and penetration. Although if you want to penetrate the front of an enemy with even remotely heavy armor, you're going to have to switch to your heat rounds. But overall, it's got some really nice offensive potential. I actually want to change my equipment combo to enhance this further, having a gun rammer and vertical stabilizer alongside the binoculars. That way I'm making the most of this tank's strengths. I also like the increased reliability from the improved combat rations, and it also makes up for the shortcomings of the view range, so it's definitely a consumable I recommend thinking about. So here I found an important target to flank, a Type 4 heavy. Since he didn't have any direct support, I hugged along the side of his tank and underneath his gun. It works out well, but unfortunately I'm a little bit of a fool and I end up going on the side of the tank where my other tanks are trying to shoot him, and I'm almost blocking their shots here. This is one of my favorite things to do as a light tank. Getting under the guard of a clumsy heavy tank and just laughing as I shoot him in the side and rear. You may have noticed that I was having some trouble penetrating the side of the Type 4 with my regular AP round, but I had no problem when I switched to my heat. Now an enemy IS-2 has snuck up behind me. He shot my teammate and I know he's got a sluggish reload time, so I'm going to press the assault, because I'm not going to be making the most of my tank if I'm just sitting beside a Tiger Pete shooting at this guy. Once again, I'm able to get behind a heavy tank and get some awesome easy damage. I get the finishing shot on this tank as well, and it seems that my flanking maneuver had quite an impact on the enemy's defense. So I want to keep my momentum here and press the advantage. You can see that with the quality oil, I've got enough horsepower to maneuver around the city area quite nicely, but my top speed's not too high, so I'm not losing control of the tank. So for the most part, I'm able to do these close quarters maneuvers without too much difficulty. And if I do mess up, it's usually just from looking at the mini-map. I'm definitely not the most graceful light tank player, and so I often have trouble controlling my other light tanks like the Lycan T-71. I noticed that the Jagdtiger shot, so I didn't bother going around the other direction of the house. And once again, I get behind a heavily armored enemy, but I don't manage to line up my shot well enough to get the finishing blow. If I had swung along the side of his tank, I probably would have gotten it there. I'm quite happy with how the Type 62 performed in that close quarters situation, even though that wasn't my finest driving. My team has won this side of the map, and so now I'm heading on over to the enemies I was fighting at the beginning of the game. And there is a T-34 just waiting there for me. That's a big hit, and since I know he's watching this area, I'm going to try to outmaneuver him, because I wouldn't last much longer at a head-on fight. Because the armor on the Type 62 is what you would expect from a light tank. It's not very impressive, and it's mostly just lucky when you do bounce a shot. In my mini-map, I noticed there was a heavy tank streaking towards my base, so instead of fighting the enemies that are well dug in, I'm going to flank this heavy tank. I don't arrive in time to save my teammate artillery, but I'm not going to let this mutant get away with it. And for the 4th time this game, I managed to tuck in behind an enemy and just farm up damage. It's like Halloween candy for this tank. Uh-oh, I think he's a little upset with me now. Nope, you can't get me. And that's another heavy tank down, and that wraps it up for this game. Now let's check the post-game stats and see how I did. For this game, I managed to earn 73,000 silver without any multipliers, remembering that I did use 25,000 worth of consumables. I got 3,462 experience, also without any multipliers, and some additional awards for using the Halloween tanks during the ops that are going on, a large repair kit, and 2 times crew XP. In this game, I dealt 2,460 damage, assisted with 1,787 damage, and destroyed 4 enemies. I'm happy with that contribution considering I was fighting tier 9 enemies. Unfortunately, I didn't earn anything epic for this game besides a mastery badge ace tanker. I placed at the top of my team, earning a base XP of 1,923. I managed to hit 24 of my 27 shots and penetrate 15 of those. In terms of crew and module damage, I injured the gunner in the Lycan T-71, damaged the ammunition in the Yag Tiger, injured the loader in the IS-2, and damaged the gun on the mutant. So overall, the Type 62 has good offensive potential, but has some slightly sluggish mobility to deal with. Active light tank players will have to be a little more careful about the assault moves that they do with this tank, and this tank will definitely work well with players that like to set up binoculars in the early game, or doing some cautious active spotting, and just patiently waiting for those key opportunities to open up, and then get some great damage in a short period of time on some key targets. Now, equipment and consumables with this tank are going to be extremely important, and I don't think there's going to be an exact right combination for it, and you're just going to have to pick it based on your personal game style. You can go for a full mobility increase with a removed speed governor and quality oil. You can add some improved combat rations to increase its offensive potential. You can do a combination of both, or if you just want to stick with some of the more basic kits and equipment, you'll still have a lot of fun casually training up your Chinese crews. And since it's got some decent silver earning potential, if you're a good light tank player, you'll be able to use whatever consumables you want without fear of losing any silver. I feel that the Type 62 will be more enjoyable for experienced light tank players, who don't mind playing a little more of a patient light tank game style. Also, one of the best things about the Dragon Type 62 is that it gets an awakened form in the Halloween event mode, and it's going to be another fun monster tank to try out. Well, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed seeing that game with the Dragon Type 62, and that my first impression will help you decide if this is a good addition to your light tank collection. Stay tuned for more awesome World of Tanks videos.